This episode was produced using AI-generated voices and scripting. Okay, so here's what I keep thinking about. We've spent the last 2 years hearing that AI is going to change how we work, and now every enterprise software company is just shoving an AI chatbot into their existing product and calling it a revolution. Soren, Salesforce just put an AI agent inside Slack. Is this the revolution, or is this a feature update with a press release?
It's neither, actually. And that's what makes it interesting. Everyone's framing this as Salesforce launches AI bot, competes with Copilot, yada yada. But what Salesforce is actually doing is way more aggressive than that. They're trying to turn Slack into the operating system for your entire work life. The AI agent isn't the product. Slack is the product. The agent is the Trojan horse.
Wait, seriously? Because when I look at this, I see a chatbot that can pull CRM data into a Slack channel. That's cool, but operating system is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence.
This is the thing that keeps getting missed. Microsoft has Copilot baked into Teams, Word, Excel, Outlook, the whole 365 suite. Google's got Gemini threaded through Workspace. Both of those companies own the productivity layer. Salesforce doesn't. They don't have a word processor. They don't have a spreadsheet app. They don't have email. What they do have is the customer data. They have the CRM, and now they're saying, hey, what if the place where you actually make decisions, the chat window, is smarter than the apps where you do the busy work?
So you're saying Salesforce is betting that the chat layer eats the productivity layer?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And honestly, it's not a crazy bet.
Okay, but let me push back on that. People have been saying chat is going to replace email for like 15 years. Slack has been around since 2013. It hasn't replaced anything. It just added another tab to keep open.
Right? But that's because old Slack was just a messaging app with integrations. A really good messaging app, sure, but it didn't do anything for you. It was a pipe. Now what Salesforce is building is an agent that lives in that pipe and actually takes action. You don't ask a question and go open Salesforce to look up the answer. The agent pulls the customer record, summarizes the last 5 interactions, drafts a follow-up email, and asks if you want to send it, all inside the chat window.
That does sound genuinely useful. But doesn't Microsoft Copilot do basically the same thing inside Teams?
Yes and no. Here's my first contrarian take. Microsoft's approach is actually weaker here, and nobody wants to say it because Microsoft is the 800-pound gorilla. Copilot is a generalist. It's good at summarizing meetings, drafting documents, doing stuff inside the Microsoft ecosystem. But it doesn't know your customers. It doesn't have deep CRM data. It doesn't understand your sales pipeline natively. Salesforce's agent does, because that's literally what Salesforce is.
So the argument is specificity beats generality.
In enterprise AI, absolutely. Think about it this way. If you're a sales rep, would you rather have an AI that can summarize any document or an AI that knows exactly which deals are at risk this quarter and can tell you what to do about it?
I mean, when you put it like that, obviously the second one. But most companies aren't just sales teams. They're also doing project management, HR stuff, finance. Microsoft covers all of that.
And that's the real competitive dynamic here. This isn't AI versus AI. It's ecosystem versus ecosystem. Salesforce is saying, pick us for the revenue side of your business, the customer-facing stuff, and let our AI agent be the brain. Microsoft is saying, pick us for everything. And Google's kind of standing in the corner saying, please don't forget about us.
Poor Google.
I mean, Google Workspace has like 3 billion users and somehow still feels like the underdog in enterprise AI. It's remarkable.
Let's talk about the forcing function, though. The headline framing is that this forces enterprise customers to pick a side. Is that actually true? Because most big companies I know use Salesforce and Microsoft. They're not mutually exclusive.
Yet, and that's the key word. Right now, sure, you can run Salesforce for CRM and Microsoft 365 for productivity and Slack for chat, and it all kind of works together through APIs and integrations. But here's what's happening. When you put an AI agent in Slack that's deeply tied to Microsoft data, you're creating two competing brains in the same organization. And eventually, someone at the C-level is going to say, why are we paying for two AI systems that do overlapping things?
That's the part nobody talks about.
Right? The AI agent isn't just a feature. It's a consolidation play. Whoever's agent gets used more becomes the default. And once you're the default, the other tool starts looking redundant. So, yeah, it does force a choice. Not today, but within 18 to 24 months, I think a lot of enterprises are going to be making that call.
So let me ask the question I always ask. Why should anyone listening to this care? If you're not a CTO at a Fortune 500 company, what does this mean for you?
Here's what it means for you, the person listening to this. The tool your company picks is going to determine what your AI can and can't do at work. If your company goes all in on Microsoft, your AI assistant is going to be great at documents and scheduling and mediocre at customer intelligence. If they go all in on Salesforce and Slack, your AI is going to be incredible at customer stuff and weaker at general productivity. You don't get to choose. Your company chooses for you. And most of these decisions are being made right now by people who are evaluating based on enterprise agreements and volume discounts, not based on what actually makes workers more effective.
That's kind of depressing.
Welcome to enterprise software.
Okay, here's where I want to play devil's advocate. You're making it sound like Salesforce has a real shot here, but Slack's market share compared to Teams is tiny. Teams has something like 300 million monthly active users, Slack has maybe 30 million. How does Salesforce win a platform war when they're outnumbered 10 to 1?
And this is my second contrarian take. They don't need to win the platform war. They just need to win the high value users. Think about who uses Slack versus who uses Teams. Teams is everywhere because it comes bundled with Office 365. A huge chunk of those 300 million users are people who use Teams because it's there, not because they chose it. Slack users tend to be at companies that specifically decided to pay for Slack. Tech companies, startups, mid-market SaaS firms, sales-driven organizations. These are the companies spending the most on Salesforce already.
So you're saying Slack doesn't need to be the biggest chat platform? It needs to be the chat platform for the companies that spend the most on CRM.
Exactly. It's not a volume play, it's a value play. If you're a company doing 200 million a year in revenue with a 50-person sales team that lives in Salesforce, a deeply integrated AI agent in Slack is way more valuable to you than a general purpose copilot in Teams. Salesforce doesn't need 300 million users. They need the right 30 million.
That's a sharp way to think about it. But let me challenge you on something else. You keep saying agent like it's meaningful. What does this agent actually do that's different from a really good integration? Because I feel like we've been promised AI agents for 2 years, and mostly what we've gotten is autocomplete with a personality.
Ugh, thank you. This is the thing that drives me absolutely crazy. The word agent has become completely meaningless in marketing, but in this specific case, there is a real distinction. A traditional Slack integration pulls data when you ask for it. You type a command, it fetches a record, it shows you a card. An agent, at least what Salesforce is building with Agentforce, is supposed to take autonomous action within guardrails. It monitors conversations, identifies when a customer issue is escalating, pulls relevant data proactively, suggests next steps, and can actually execute tasks like updating a record or creating a case without you manually triggering each step.
Supposed to. You said supposed to.
Yeah, look, I'm not naive. The gap between the demo and the reality is always enormous in enterprise AI. But the architecture here is genuinely different from what we've seen before. Salesforce isn't just bolting a chatbot onto Slack. They've rebuilt the underlying platform so that Agentforce agents can operate inside Slack as first-class participants. They show up in channels, they have context, they remember previous conversations. At least that's the design.
And you think this works in practice?
I think it works for narrow use cases in the next year. Sales workflows, customer support triage, maybe deal review. The broad vision of an AI agent that handles everything. That's 3 to 5 years out, minimum. But the narrow version? That could be really compelling really soon.
All right, let's zoom out. I want to talk about the bigger picture here. If Salesforce, Microsoft, and Google are all building AI agents into their communication platforms, are we heading toward a world where every company is locked into one ecosystem? Because that sounds a lot like the bad old days of vendor lock-in.
It sounds like it because it is. Now, I want the listener to really sit with this for a second. Think about what's happening. These companies are building AI agents that get smarter the more data they have access to. The more you use the Salesforce Slack agent, the better it understands your business. The more you use Copilot and Teams, the better it understands your workflows. Switching costs were already high in enterprise software. Now, add an AI layer that's been trained on 2 years of your company's internal data. You're never leaving, ever.
That's the real play, isn't it? The AI isn't the product. The lock-in is the product.
Now you're getting it. Every single one of these companies, Salesforce, Microsoft, Google, they're all making the same bet. If we can be the AI brain for your organization, you'll never churn. The subscription revenue becomes permanent. And honestly, from a business strategy perspective, it's brilliant. From a customer perspective, it should scare you.
Should it though? I mean, if the AI is actually good and it makes workers more productive, is lock-in really that bad? We're all locked into the iPhone ecosystem, and most of us are fine with it.
The iPhone comparison is actually instructive. You're fine with iPhone lock-in because Apple keeps making the product good enough that you don't want to leave. But what happens when the product gets worse and you can't leave? That's the risk. Right now, these AI agents are in their honeymoon phase. Everyone's investing, everyone's innovating, everything's improving. Wait until the market consolidates and the pressure shifts from innovation to extraction. We've seen this movie before.
With what? Give me a specific example.
Oracle databases. In the 90s and 2000s, Oracle was the backbone of enterprise. Everyone built on Oracle. Then Oracle realized nobody could leave and started jacking up prices and making licensing insanely complicated. Companies spent millions just on Oracle compliance. The product didn't get better. The extraction got worse. That's the risk of AI lock-in at the platform level.
Okay, that's a legitimately scary parallel. So what's the smart play if you're an enterprise buyer right now?
Honestly, and this is advice nobody in the industry wants to give because it's bad for all of them, don't go all in on any one AI platform yet. Use the agents, experiment, but keep your data portable. Invest in your own data infrastructure so that if you need to switch AI providers in 3 years, you actually can. The companies that are going to get burned are the ones who go all in on Agentforce or Copilot right now and don't think about what happens when they want to change.
But isn't the whole value proposition of these agents that they're deeply integrated? If you keep things portable, you lose the deep integration. You're giving up the upside to avoid the downside.
Yeah, it's a genuine tension. I don't have a clean answer for that. The truth is, those companies are going to pick a side. They're going to go deep, and in 5 years, some of them will regret it, and some of them won't. The ones who pick the right horse will look like geniuses. The ones who don't will be stuck paying increasingly insane prices for an AI they can't turn off.
Alright, let me throw one more thing at you. What about the open source angle? There are companies building AI agents on open models, Llama, Mistral, whatever. Does Salesforce putting an agent in Slack actually matter if in 2 years every company can just build their own?
It matters because building your own is way harder than anyone admits. Yeah, you can grab an open source model, you can fine tune it, you can build an agent framework, but then you need to integrate it with your CRM, your communication platform, your data warehouse, your security policies, your compliance requirements. Salesforce is selling the full stack model plus data plus integration plus workflow. Building that yourself is a 2 year, multi-million dollar project for most companies. Buying it from Salesforce is a line item on your existing contract.
So convenience wins again.
Convenience always wins in enterprise. Always. That's the one law of B2B software that never changes. The easier path wins, even when it's not the best path.
Let me come back to something you said earlier that I want to unpack. You said Google is standing in the corner, but Google's got Gemini, which by a lot of benchmarks is the most capable model out there. Why isn't Google winning this fight?
Because having the best model doesn't matter if you don't have the distribution. Google's problem has always been the same. They build incredible technology and then fumble the enterprise go-to-market. Workspace is great for small businesses and education, but in the Fortune 500, Microsoft owns that. Salesforce owns the CRM layer. Google is third in both categories. And you can't sell an AI agent if you don't already have deep relationships with the people buying it.
So, this whole AI agent war is really just a distribution war in disguise.
Everything in tech is a distribution war in disguise. The AI part is table stakes. Every major vendor will have a competent AI agent within 18 months. What separates winners from losers is who already has the customer relationship, the data access, and the workflow integration to make the agent actually useful. And on that scorecard, it's Microsoft first, Salesforce second, Google distant third.
I want to challenge you one more time. You've been pretty bullish on Salesforce's position here, but Salesforce's stock has basically gone sideways for 2 years. Wall Street doesn't seem to think this AI strategy is as compelling as you do. What do they know that you don't?
Wall Street knows is that Salesforce is spending an enormous amount of money on AI development, and the revenue impact isn't showing up yet. The AI4 stuff is new. It's not driving material revenue. And investors are looking at Microsoft's AI revenue, which is starting to show up in Azure and 365, and saying, why isn't Salesforce seeing the same kind of uplift? But here's the thing. Salesforce's AI play is different. Microsoft is charging a $30 per user per month Copilot premium. It's a direct line item. Salesforce is weaving AI into existing products and hoping it drives platform expansion and retention. That's harder to measure, but potentially more durable.
Potentially more durable. I love how you can make anything sound optimistic if you add the word potentially.
There. Look, I'm not saying Salesforce wins. I'm saying the narrative that Microsoft has already won because they have Copilot and OpenAI is lazy. The enterprise AI market is going to be way more fragmented than people think. Different companies will win in different verticals, different use cases, different company sizes. The idea that there's going to be one AI platform to rule them all is fantasy.
And if you're listening to this and you're someone who actually uses these tools every day, Slack, Teams, whatever, here's the thing I want you to think about. The AI agent your company picks isn't just a productivity tool. It's going to shape what information you see, what decisions you make, and what options you're even aware of. That's a lot of power to hand to a vendor.
That's exactly right. And it's the conversation nobody in enterprise sales wants to have. When your AI agent summarizes a customer situation for you, what did it leave out? When it recommends a next step, what alternatives did it not show you? These are the same questions we ask about social media algorithms, but nobody's asking them about enterprise AI yet.
Okay, let's land this plane. If you had to make one prediction about where this Salesforce Microsoft Google AI agent war ends up in 2 years, what is it?
In 2 years, Microsoft will have the most users on AI agents. Salesforce will have the highest satisfaction scores among its users, and Google will have pivoted its strategy at least twice. The market won't have consolidated, but the lock-in will already be deep enough that the decisions companies are making this year will be very hard to reverse by then. The window for optionality is closing fast.
And for the people listening, if your company is currently evaluating these platforms, ask the hard question. Not which AI agent is the best today, but which vendor do you trust with your data for the next decade? Because that's really what you're signing up for.
And if nobody at your company is asking that question, you should be worried because someone in procurement is about to make a decision that affects your work life for years. And they're probably doing it based on a PowerPoint deck and a discount on a 3-year contract.
On that deeply comforting note, Soren, always a pleasure.
Always fun, even when the future is mildly terrifying.